So I'll just quote a short sikha that the Rebbe said on Shabbos Parshas Shmois, which was about 2 weeks before the 20th anniversary of the passing of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Rebbe said as follows, that the lesson is, the Rebbe spoke about Shimshon, as we'll soon elaborate on that, how it says, the Gemara says there's one pasuk that says that Shimshon ruled for 20 years, and there's another pasuk that says he ruled for 40 years, and how you reconcile the two verses. But the Rebbe says that the lesson of 20 years is that when it comes such a time, we have to make a cheshbon tzedek, a reckoning, a true reckoning. If we did, during the past 20 years, if we did what we had to do, and if we did what the Rebbe wanted from us. This is what the Rebbe said about the Frierdiker Rebbe when it came to the 20th anniversary. So from this we understand that when it comes now, Gimel Tammuz 20 years, we have to do the same. We have to ask ourselves, did we do what we're supposed to do? But, thank you. I'm not here, I'm not the one to give mussar or to tell people what to do. We'd like to begin with a video of the Rebbe, a sikha of the Rebbe, which will speak for itself.
I don't have it. I tried. I didn't really simple. I hope. If it's works, I put it online. I'm not gonna make it. Put it on.
Say that.
Relate that the connection of a true Jewish leader to his people is so deep that it can bridge worlds and transcend time.
Ale jachli haistalot, enit has verschollen azos auf 10 Marisse, wollen die bald hat sich Tafki durchschlichtet, wie die Gmorde sagt in Seke bei dem ersten Rehe nehmen von Israel, Ama ad kan emed und Shamish, Isach lahalom emed und Shamish bei Mori, ich was paranefen habe, auf Medis an al-Israel, und nach welchen Jiden bringt sich herum gleich dort Deset, als Gorossische und Mesche gewinnt Neger von dem Mahal HaYodur, wo danach da was Amol ist ähnlich bejegt, und danach geht
We'll ask the head shliach in Montreal, Church of Deutsch from Agudas Chabad, and a member of Agudas Chabad. No?
Rebbe's Kapitel, no?
Rebbe's Kapitel, kom. Last Rabbi Mochkin to share with us a few words of inspiration. Rabbi Mochkin.
הוא יודע שאתה מדבר. זה עצמו. דיברו איתו, מה הוא לא יודע? דיברו איתו. גם בפחד.
What can we add? Chure, Skulam Ahovim, Skulam Berurim, they're all big chassidim, and the Kochzach, we could see that how we Kochzach in the Rebbe's Yonim, Skashres. So what else can it be demanded from Azah Eidach Shuvah? One of the Sikhs last week, connected to last week, there was a word that the Rebbe said, talking about the Shmireh that it was in the Beis HaMikdash, the Chure, what is the purpose and the inyan that it had to be in Beis HaMikdash, people that were going around and watching, standing and watching in Beis HaMikdash. Nobody will steal there, and it's Bichure, an extra thing. It says, Adas Ya'inyan from Kovet. And the way it was is that at night was needed the Shomrim to stay there, to be on guard, so to say, the Shomrim that had to stay with Neakovet, but by daytime it didn't need. So in short, the the Rebbe Masbid, the Nekuda Zadover is, the word, Mipnei HaKovod, that it has to be Shmira in the time, as a Torni Zankin Hesech Hadas. And it's not allowed in Beis Hamikdash, when we talk about the Kedusha of the Beis Hamikdash, dort wo der ist der Shachanti B'Seichel, dort wo der Eibishter gewinnt sich, so it is not allowed to be any inyan of Hesech Hadas, not to forget a minute where we are. And that's why there was the one that was going around, and if you found one of these people that was on guard, that had to stay on guard, and you found them dreaming, so there was a whole business there, that he was able to burn at his clothing and became a whole Indian. What is? You can't forget a minute on the Kedushas Beis Hamikdash. That is what is actually Take Grace Chassidim. We are Take doing, everyone is doing in his way, supposedly what the Rebbe wants, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So we are feeling that we are connected with the Rebbe and we have to do what the Rebbe wants. But there is a Nekuda increase is the not Masiyach Das. In Gashmias, when a person lost something, an important thing, so whatever he does, whatever he is occupied with, it comes back to his mind every while about that what he lost. He's busy with some other thing. But the nature is that if there is something important by him, it comes back every while. That is the Nekuda that is demanded from a Chassid, the Nicht Masiyach Da. I can only say it because the Rebbe zogt us. I can't say it as a Chassid, wie Chassidim played Namol Fabrengen, because they were at that Inyan, they were feeling it, they were at that Inyan. I can only say it because that's what the Rebbe said. So the Rebbe shall help us that we shall give ourselves over to that what the Rebbe wants, in a way of it shouldn't be a Hesed Hadas. We shouldn't forget a minute like it used to be, that we used to call out in the front of the Rebbe, we soll wies gedenken, wo mi steht und vor wem mi steht. And the Rebbe shall help us that we shall have the schus. The Rebbe said, v'niske, we shall have the schus. It's not our, because we are watered. The schus is a Indian that comes from Milo. It shall come the schus that we stand, that we can read in Dolle Matam, take it from the Yad Mamesh, the who you go in.
That one has to make a reckoning about what he did in the last 20 years. So it's interesting to note that the following week, Shabbos Parshas Va'ero, Tovshin Lamed, a week later, which was 1 week before Yud Shvat, Tovshin Lamed. So the Rebbe mentioned again, and the Rebbe said that since there are 7 days left fill the Yom HaYilula of the Frierdiker Rebbe, of the previous Rebbe. So therefore, on Sunday, one has to look back and think about all the Sundays of the last 20 years if he did what he was supposed to do. And on Monday, he has to think back and look back and see if he did what he had to do in all the previous Mondays, etc., for every day of the week. So we see that the Rebbe wanted that one should reflect upon what he was supposed to do, and obviously, if he didn't do it, to start doing it ASAP. So on that note, I would like to call Rabbi Beryl Bell. Is he here? Yeah. Rabbi Bell? Oh, Rabbi Beryl Bell. The Rebbe empowered us that we are the ones that we have to bring Mashiach down to Poel Mamish. We have to bring Mashiach down, the Shekhinah down Lamato here in this world. And by doing this, it's by doing good deeds, by doing mitzvahs. That we should do mitzvahs, and we should encourage other people to do mitzvahs. And so I'll give the mic to Rabbi Bell, who has worked out a little system to help us. We should encourage others to do mitzvahs. Rabbi Bell.
I was just given credit for something that I didn't do, but in any case, you'll all see on as you came in, they were on all the chairs, they had settled about Mivtzoim for Anash. The Rebbe, as we, all those that remember the Fabrengens, the Rebbe would mention all the Mivtzoim individually again and again. The Rebbe explained once why he did, that he had to mention again and again. He was constantly pushing Chassidim to add on in Mivtzoim, and the Rebbe once said that it's not something that you can hide, that everybody should be able to say, these are the people I contacted, this is the number of hours I went, and this is what I did. And they were constantly pushing to add on. The Rebbe said that in these days it's in you from the Koch Nefesh, and they made it very clear that those that it adds on the skashrus to reach every single person. The PowerPoint didn't end up working out over here, but remember from Tavshin and Beis Kines HaShluchim, the Rebbe said that in this generation every single Yid is a shliach. But the truth is, the Rebbe said it many times before. The Rebbe said once, one occasion, Zeh tafkidu shlichusa shel kol odem Yisrael. Another time the Rebbe said that it's obvious that anybody that ever went in Tomchet Mimim, that he should be involved in Mivtzoim, but in our generation it's not only those that went to Tomchet Mimim, it's every single Jew. Both men and women, every single Jew, and there's nobody that can take themselves and exclude themselves from this category. There's a big Esairus now in Eretz Yisrael about Anash, the organization Bile Chabad, where Anash are going out of Mivtzoim. The Rebbe said in the Sikha that it speaks, the Gemara says that when a person comes Lamaili after the 120 years, the first question he's asked is did you do business honestly? And the Rebbe said, what does it mean business? Business is what you had to do with this world. And what is it that we have to do with this world? That's the inyan of Mivtzoim, the Rebbe said. So you're asked, when you come Lamaila, what was your main business? That every single day I give you back your neshama and I keep it within you. Where are the children? Whether children in age or children in Yedias, that you taught the basics of Yiddishkeit, where are the Yidden that you brought close to Yiddishkeit? And this is something that we all have to answer ourselves. The Rebbe said by Fabrengen once, he compared to a machine that was built by an engineer, and somebody comes along and they look at this machine and they see there's a screw in the machine and it doesn't seem that it has any particular use. So the person decides, okay, we'll take out this screw. It doesn't seem to be necessary anyway. It's understood that the engineer that put it together and designed it, he knows why it is this particular screw is necessary in order for the machine to function. So too, the Rebbe said, you might wonder that when you move to a city, this city has been around for many years, and it seemed to have been doing whatever it was doing without you. So obviously your participation spreading Yiddishkeit in the city is unnecessary. So now that you're living in the city, so it's also unnecessary. It was going on before you came here, and it's continuing to go on the way it is now. So the Rebbe said that might have been the case before, but the fact, b'hashgacha pratis, that you find yourself in this place, that it's obvious. With a kolshkem v'kal v'chemer, the mataf, the engineer, has every single part of the machine that he knows is absolutely crucial that it should be functioning in order for the whole thing to work. So too, the fact that you find yourself in a particular place, it's absolutely necessary for a person to add on in spreading out Yiddishkeit to other people. In any case, there's all different sorts of difficulties. You want to go into Mivtzoyim, so like what exactly do? You can take your tefillin, but you're going to go someplace and somebody else is going there already, and how to organize them, where do you get brochures, and therefore there was a plan put together to open up a Mivtzoyim center. So Rabbi Yudi Winterfeld is going to be in charge of it, Mirz Hashem, and as you see, we've put together this list over here. It's just an idea of various things that can be done throughout the Mivtzoyim. There are of course the 3 Mivtzoyim for women also here, and other ideas that everybody is urged and encouraged to fill out something over here that you can be contacted, and the Mirz Hashem, when things get going, that everybody will have the opportunity to add. The Rebbe said once, by every gathering of Yidden, it should always be mentioned what the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, that a person is required to look at the entire world as being an equal balance between the positive and the negative, and therefore, Ma'aseh Echad, Dibur Echad, Machshava Achas, even one thought, or one word, or one action, could be the one to tip the scales and bring the Geula B'Peil Mamish. And therefore, the adding on, that everybody certainly does something in this respect, but also all the people you reach should be encouraged to do further in this respect, and so too, each of us can add on in whatever we're doing now. The Rebbe said, when the famous video, when CNN came to ask the Rebbe about his message to the world about Mashiach, and he said that we have to add on in acts of goodness and kindness. And the reporter said, so you should add in acts of goodness and kindness, Mashiach should come, and the Rebbe answered, this part is not always quoted, I don't know why, but l'chur it's the Iker. The Rebbe said just a little bit more and it'll come immediately. And that's the Nakuda, that everybody can add on, so the Kem province zusammen, Gimel Tammuz, but the Rebbe told them up.
Right.
Verbringer will call upon the Moradaswe, the Stott from Hampstead, and the Moradaswe of the Montreal Torah Center, Rav Moshe to say a kapitel Dildim. Everybody knows that there's Tzoras HaKlal and Tzoras HaPrat. There are problems, individual problems, and there are communal problems. And in addition to all that, we have a situation where there are three Torah students that were kidnapped. So we'll ask Rav Moshe Yaakov Naftali ben Rochel Dvoire, Gilad Michol ben
Bas Galim,
Galit, and Ayal ben
Dvoret
Irit Teshura. So we'll ask Rav Moshe to say that people kill them and they should hope that they should be freed, and we should be freed from the Golos as well.
Say the Rebbe's Hallelujah, 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 Shem Adonai, Shem Adonai, Vela, Ato, Vela, Shem Adonai, Shem Adonai, Roma Klagoy Adonai, Shemayim Kveda, Mik Adonai Leit Nakvila Shabbos, Spielen Lieder, and Spielen Lieder for Shemayim Vahoretz. Kimmer Yofer, Dome Yashmis Yod Mevia, Shivi Yudivim Yedivi Amay Mishiva Keres Abayis, Em Abodim Smecha, hallelujah. Alle Kapitel. Kufrafalef, Shila Malis Esrein Zahodim Meyayin Yove Ezri, Ezri Miyim Adinoi, Oisei Shamayim Vahoretz, Yitin Amit Abdar Raglacha, Al-Yonam Shemracha, Hine Le'Yonam V'Yishon Shem Yisrael, Nei Shemracha, Tetzirch Al-Yadi Minecha, Yimam Yishemesh Li'Akerka, V'Yarech Ba'Loila, Yishmorcha B'Kol Ra, Yishmer Es Nafshecha, Adonai Yishmer Tzeitzcha V'Yacha, Meyata V'Yad Eilam.
On the posters that were distributed, it said that the guest Verbringer is Rabbi Yeshua Gordon, and it just said under it, it said Hetzliach to the Valley. But the truth is that first of all, we were short of space. There's a lot of information on those posters, but it's really much more than that. You have sometimes somebody who's a Rosh Yeshiva, and there's maybe 100 students, 200 students, 1,000 students. But Rabbi Gordon is giving shiurim online, Rambam and Chitas, where I'm not sure if he even knows how many students he has. But I know Rabbi Gordon doesn't want we should speak too much about him, so we won't. And without further ado, I don't want to say my colleague because he's Meshich Mil Milo. So mitzvah shlochi b'fonov. But without further ado, I'd like to call upon Rabbi Gordon should Verbring. Now he's going to Verbring with us, and then after the Verbring we'll sing a nigun, and he's going to Verbring weiter. I'm not sure how long, but as long as there's people that are willing to listen to him, he's going to Verbring. Rabbi Gordon.
I want to begin by saying L'chaim, L'chaim. First of all, I want to thank all of those that came over and thanked me for learning. Thank you for learning with me. It's a tremendous chus for me that you learn with me. I had an experience about 2 weeks ago which shook me to the core. I received a call from a fellow shliach, a colleague of mine, from different geographical location completely. And he told me that he has a supporter, a balabos, in a shtetl in Michigan. And he's speaking to this balabos, was weit von Yiddishkeit, he's far from Yiddishkeit. And he nudges him once again. He says, you have to learn Torah. You have to study Torah. If you don't study Torah, you're not a fulfilled Jew. We know as Chassidim, Niftzah Torah is one of the Mitzvahim of the Rebbe. So the guy says, Rabbi, don't worry about it. I don't know if you ever heard about it. There's a class on the internet. It's given by Rabbi Gordon. I study Torah with him every day. So does my wife. He says, wow, that's great. You know, Rabbi Gordon is a friend of mine. So the balabos, the fellow in Michigan, says, I hope I never meet him. So he says, why? Why do you hope you never meet him? I don't understand. He says, because I am so mesmerized, I'm so appreciative of his teachings, I put him on a pedestal. And if I meet him, I'm afraid I'm going to be disappointed. Listen to those words, my friend. Those words apply to every one of us. Because clearly we are on a pedestal. B'nai Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Chassidim of the Rebbe, Talmidim of the Rebbe, representatives of the Rebbe, children of the Rebbe, soldiers of the Rebbe. We are on a pedestal. We have to make sure that we don't disappoint ourselves and the people around us. It's a tremendous responsibility. I want to begin with a very powerful story. The story goes, it's a printed story, that a man came to see the Rebbe Maharash, fourth Chabad Rebbe, and he said to the Rebbe Maharash, I'd like to ask you for your advice. I have this incredible investment opportunity. And I'd like to ask the Rebbe if I should invest. It's a lot of money, my entire life savings. Is it a good thing or not? So the Rebbe Maharash says to him, I do not think you should invest in this investment. He goes back to the fellow who was trying to solicit his investment. He says, I went to my Rebbe, and he said, no. He says, Rebbe, Shmebbe, your Rebbe doesn't understand. Go tell him this is an opportunity of a lifetime. Go tell him if this investment is made and takes off, you'll never have to work again. So this gentleman goes back to the Rebbe Maharash. And he says, Rebbe, you don't understand. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. If I make this investment and it takes off, I'll never have to work again. So the Rebbe Maharash says, I'm telling you, zum zweiten Mal, I do not believe you should make this investment. Anyway, he comes back to the guy. I'm not sure what the guy's name was. The guy wanted his money. Maybe it was Madoff. I'm not sure. By the way, do you know how much money Madoff made off with? So he says, you don't get it. This is once in a lifetime. You're going to have an incredible return. Go tell your Rebbe. He has to say yes. This fellow comes to the Rebbe Maharash zum dritten Mal. And he says, Rebbe, you've got to give me this bracha. I need to do it. This is it. This is the investment I've been waiting for all my life. Maharash said, this is the third time you're asking me, and Bamir Kumtuis, in my humble opinion, you should not make the investment. I guess everybody speaks Yiddish here, right? He couldn't control himself. And he made the investment anyway. And you know the end. It was a Madoff type investment. And he lost everything. And now he was no longer a wealthy man or a moderately wealthy man. Now he's a pauper. So he comes back to the Rebbe Marash. He says, Rebbe, I feel so stupid. I feel so small. I feel so terrible. I don't know what got into me. But can you help me? Can you give me a blessing to come out of it? Can you give me a bracha? So the Rebbe Marash says to this poor soul, he says, when it comes to people who turn to a Rebbe for advice in business, there are three categories of people. One category is somebody figures the Rebbe is on the ground. He's very connected. He sees a lot of people. He interacts with a lot of people. He sees a lot of business plans. He knows. So they come to the Rebbe and they say, no, what do you think? They're looking for his business acumen. He's sharp. And he knows. He's in the know. That's one category. But there's a second category of a person who comes to a Rebbe. He figures the Rebbe, his life is Torah. He's a Torah Jew. He's a Torah scholar. And all of the wisdom is in Torah. Where there's Torah, there's wisdom. The Torah will surely give the Rebbe wisdom to know what's a good investment and what's not a good investment. That's the second category. The first category is he is involved, he knows a lot of people in business. The second category is he's a Torah Jew. Then there's a third category. A real chassid. A chassid knows that a Rebbe is a Rebbe. A Rebbe. Shchina medaberes mit der Grene. A Rebbe is the Eibishter allein, was redt durch Havos Avadam. Moshe Rabbeinu shebederenu. How does a Rebbe know? He knows. Now, I'm not sure which category you fit into, said the Rebbe Marash to this gentleman. But regardless of whether you are category 1, category 2, or category 3, you should have listened. Why didn't you listen? That's the story. We're sitting here in this wonderful, wonderful, I guess we call it Beis Chabad, MTC. I have my friend and colleague, Rabbi Nu and Rabbi Treitel, and all of the other Rabbonim. Rabbi Beryl Mochkin, who gets younger every time I see him. He's 120 years. It's important to say we need to know what a Rebbe is. Because if we can internalize that the Rebbe is a Rebbe, and the Rebbe has expectations of us, not only 20 and 30 and 40 and 50 years ago, but today, then we will be different, our lives will be different, our effect on others will be different. And I want to begin by saying, I find myself once again in Montreal. I grew up in Montreal. I was educated in the yeshiva in Montreal. I came to Montreal as a teenager, a little over 50 years ago. 50 years ago. You know, even though this is Canada, I'm sure you've heard of JFK, right? I don't mean the airport. I also don't mean the guy who comes late to shul just for Kiddush. That's another form of JFK. I mean the president. People my age, you ask them where they were when they found out JFK was assassinated. I was on Victoria and Carlton in front of the 1 hour Martinizing. November 22nd, 1963. Do we still have a 1 hour Martinizing there?
Yes.
Okay, Baruch Hashem. But I'm looking at my colleague Rabbi Nu, and I'm getting very nervous because Rabbi Nu called me up a few weeks ago. He says, Rabbi Gordon, I heard you're coming to Montreal. We don't need any entertainment. We don't need any jokes. Be serious. So there's going to be no entertainment tonight and no jokes tonight. And I'm going to be very, very serious because Nachal says this is very serious. So I want to begin with a story. I was just having a conversation with my colleague, Rabbi Kaplan, Rosh Yeshiva, and I was talking about the yeshiva, and is there a summer session in the yeshiva? So I want to tell you a story. I believe the year was Tavshin Chav Hei. If not Chav Hei, it was Chavod. Probably Chav Hei. And the people in the yeshiva who were my mashpiyim, mashgichim, those who guided me, yeshiva here, Westbury corner, Plamondon. Are we? They encouraged me, it was this time of the year, they encouraged me to remain in the yeshiva for summer. And by the way, I see a lot of people in whose houses I ate. I want to thank you for your hospitality. It was a long time ago. But I still remember it. Thank you. Montreal is an incredible community. It's unbelievable. And I'm talking 43 years ago. So they wanted me to stay in the yeshiva in the summer. I also had an opportunity, we have Rabbi Beryl Mochkin here, to go to camp. In the Laurentians, right? Near La Belle, on the mountain high. The flag of Gam Yisrael does fly. It's memory to pick, never mind. Now, I, like every other yeshiva bacher, had the opportunity, I take it for granted back then, to go to Yechidus, to see the Rebbe. Every year just before my Yom Haledes. And this is just before my Yom Haledes. Thank you for making this birthday party. We just need a cake. So I went into Yechidus. I was like 16. And I asked for a bracha, and I did my hachonas, and I did everything I hoped that a 16-year-old bacher did before Yechidus. It was an awesome experience. And this happened every year. But then, in addition to asking the Rebbe for a bracha, shnas hatzlacha bracha, and the Rebbe took the success of Yeshiva Bacham very seriously, and the growth of Yeshiva Bacham very seriously, I presented my big question to the Rebbe. I have a dilemma, or as they say in Australia, a dilemma. Should I go to yeshiva in the summertime, or should I go to camp? This was my big issue. Now you're thinking, to me this was important. To the Rebbe it was certainly important. Because to the Rebbe everything was and is important. So the Rebbe looked at me, and the Rebbe indicated, can't guess, huh? The Rebbe indicated that I should go to camp. And the Rebbe gave an explanation. And the Rebbe said that because I will go to camp and do for others, to translate, there's a pasuk, there's an expression that says that when a person does so-and-so, his heart and his mind becomes refined 1,000 times as much. A few weeks later at a Fabrengen, the Rebbe explained, as he did many times since then, that literally what this means, this expression, is that ordinarily what it takes somebody 1 hour to accomplish, well, ordinarily what it takes somebody 1,000 hours to accomplish, if we do for others, we can accomplish that in 1 hour. This is what the Rebbe told me at 16. The Rebbe's view and the Rebbe's emphasis on doing for others. There was an announcement earlier about Mitzvayim. In most chugim, in most groups in the world, people think about themselves. They think about their children as they should. They think about their grandchildren as they should. They're not very concerned with other people. Certainly those people. The Rebbe was concerned with all people and continues to be concerned. Let me tell you a story. My wife and I went out on shlichus in 1972 and to California, to the Valley in 1973. When we got to Encino, California, we were very young, very inexperienced, but very excited. The passion of shlichus was there for both of us all of our lives. This was what we wanted to do. In fact, I'll tell you a secret. We're all amongst friends. Please don't tell anybody. The first time I met my wife, I guess you would call it a date, we had some very basic elementary conversation, and then I told her, listen, I'm going on shlichus. How about you? And she says, me too. That was the first date. And 6 days later, we were engaged. We got the bracha from the Rebbe. 6 days later. It was a non-issue. Shlichus was, well, I'm from the 60s, you see. We're estranged people. I only smoked whitefish, by the way. There's no entertaining to it. So, there was this family we met in Encino, a young 14-year-old boy. Got to know him, got involved with him, and there's something very interesting about life. People grow up. People you meet as kids, before you know it, they're all grown up. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're Indian chiefs, they're successful businessmen, they're donors, they're partners. How did the world change? I was teaching you bar mitzvah. I don't know. I haven't figured out how this works. But this 14-year-old kid grew up. We maintained this close relationship. And he went to law school and became a lawyer. And he got a job working for another fellow in our community in a small law office. His Hebrew name was Yosef. His secular name, sein goyische Numen, is Jeff. He comes to me and he says, Rabbi Gordon, you know, I have this big case coming up. And I really, really need a lot of help. Because this is the case that will propel me into a real law career. Is it appropriate? I'm here to rabbi. Is it appropriate for me to write the letter to the Rebbe, ask him for a blessing, for a bracha, that I succeed, tell him what's going on? I said, not only is it appropriate, it's wonderful. So we sat down together, wrote a letter, told the Rebbe the importance of this case, sent the letter off. A few weeks later, a letter comes from the Rebbe stationer. It's addressed to Mr. Yosef, so on and so forth. And the letter says, and I have the letter in my files, I received your request, and the Rebbe gave him tremendous bracha for hatzlacha, for success. Unbelievable. Now, you know, he's a lawyer. We don't have too many lawyers here, huh? Okay, good. So he says to me, you know, he's a little cynical. He says to me, so, Rabbi, this is a good thing, right? This letter is, I mean, I don't know letters from the Rebbe, but this is a good thing, right? I said, it's wonderful. He says, so we're going to do okay, huh? I said, you're going to do terrific. Fast forward. This is his case. This is the make it or break it case. And then the big day comes. He's the lawyer. He loses the case. But it was a massacre. It was a devastation. Not only does he lose the case, he loses his job. He comes to me, he says, no, what do you say now? I said, it's going to be even better. He says, I knew you would say that. You guys are all the same. I said, I'm telling you, your letter from the Rebbe was a powerful letter. It's going to be even better. He says, we'll see. He gets so frustrated and so devastated. He quits law. That's it. Voice lawyer. He goes into business. And everything he touches turns to gold. And this guy starts making money like I never saw anybody make money. He says to me, Rabbi Gordon, don't you think it's time that we go see the Rebbe? I hear he gives out dollars and blessings on Sundays. I say, it's high time. I've been bugging you. Yeah, but I'm ready now. So he gets a first-class ticket for both of us. And he sits down, he says, I just want to thank you for going with me. He writes me a nice check. This is just for the trip. By that time, he was one of my biggest supporters. So we come to 770, and we're standing in front of the Rebbe. Now, in case you think I'm making this up, I'm not making this up. The Rebbe looks at him and says, gives him another $1, and don't be afraid to double your donations. We walk away, he says, Rabbi Gordon, this is a setup, right? I mean, what, you guys do business that way, huh? I said, what are you talking about? This is the Rebbe. Yeah! But, you know, he trusts me. So I convince him that, he said, the Rebbe probably always says that. I said, I never heard it before. It could be. So he says, okay, I'll believe you. Find out how much I gave you this year. I said, it's Sunday. He says, never mind. So I woke up the person who ran my books. We didn't even have a computer. We didn't know what a computer was. And I got the amount. It was a substantial amount, and he wrote me a check right there to fulfill the Rebbe's instruction. Don't be afraid to double your donations. Why do I tell you this story? Because we have to know what a Rebbe is before we talk about connection to the Rebbe. Discussions. What does it mean that we're going to be connected? Connected to who? Connected to what? Now this same gentleman, 20 years ago, he took the whole situation, beginning with 22 years ago, very hard. He was more devastated than many Hasidim I know. He couldn't fathom the loss. And he distanced himself somewhat. And he couldn't get himself to go to the Ohel. It was not the relationship with the Rebbe he wanted. And time went on, and he became more distant and more frustrated. And to move on, obviously I had been pushing him to go to the Ohel and so on. One second, I got a phone call. My wife, should I answer it? No. No. You sure? Okay, I'll tell her you said no. So he says, you know, Rabbi, I hear that some people write letters to the Rebbe, and in addition to sending it to the Ohel of the Rebbe, they put it into one of the books of the Rebbe. Is that true? I said, yes, it is. He says, do you believe in it? I said, how could you not believe in it? Of course I believe in it. It's a basic tradition in Jewish life that when we're not sure what to do, we put it in a holy book, and these are the Rebbe's Sforim. There are rules involved, you got to be careful, but of course. He says, I want to do one of those. I said, okay. He says, because I miss the Rebbe. I said, me too. So he writes a letter and he lays it all out. We send it to the Ohel, and we place it, I have him place it in the Igros Kodesh. And I open it up, and there's a whole letter from the Rebbe saying, my dear friend, the answer to your question is, you need to study Igeres HaKodesh Simin Chav Zayin. You need to study the section of Tanya, chapter 27 of the letters. For those who may not be that familiar, this was mentioned earlier tonight. The Rebbe mentioned it in the video. This is the Perek Tanya, which the Alter Rebbe wrote to the disciples of Reb Mendel Haradoker. He passed away, and he left them bereft. And there's a whole theme, and then there's a biur, an explanation. By the way, if you study with me, this is on the internet, because I have the whole Tanya on the internet, Baruch Hashem. And it basically says that when a tzaddik passes away, you know, we read a lot of Zohar, Aramaic, and a lot of Hebrew. We got to speak English. That when a tzaddik passes away, he is present more than before. Not only in the higher worlds, but also in this world. not only in matters of the spirit, but also in matters of material issues. So what this gentleman learns from his putting his letter into the Igros Kodesh is that he has no idea of the whole idea of the eternity of the life of a tzaddik. And that for Chassidim today, Igeres HaKodesh Siman Chav Zayin, that's like only a beginning. To us, we're much more connected to the Rebbe than Siman Chav Zayin. That's like elementary. But at the very least, we need to recognize that the Rebbe is, forgive me, alive and well. I don't mean physically, because we're about to commemorate the 20th Yortzeit Hilula, but I mean in reality. Because the real life of a Rebbe is Emunah, Ahava, and Yira. Faith in Hashem, fear of Hashem, love of Hashem. And that doesn't die. And that doesn't pass away. In fact, that becomes even more revealed, even more dynamic, even more powerful than before. And the Alter Rebbe writes to the bereft disciples of Reb Mendel Haradoker, your Rebbe is alive. He's here. Communicate with him. Connect to him. And I'm sitting and learning this with him, and he's like, I'll use a California word, freaking out. Wow. So chas v'sholom, we should speak about perpetuating the memory and the legacy of the Rebbe, that too. But the Rebbe has to be in our lives in reality, morning, afternoon, and evening. And our spouses need to know this, and our children need to know this, and our grandchildren need to know this, and our mushpoyim, those who learn from us, need to know this. It's not an option. Because unless we have a living Rebbe, Yatir mi b'chayai, more than he was during his lifetime, not less, not second best, not memories. Obviously, we all want the Rebbe back, the Neshama B'Guf. Obviously, believe that's going to happen any second with the coming of Mashiach. That's not even a question. But until then, we need to also connect to the Rebbe as a reality, as a living reality, not as a memory to perpetuate. And this is critically important if we speak about hiskashrus. What does hiskashrus mean? It means to be connected. A chassid is connected to his Rebbe. How could you be connected to a Rebbe whose 20th Yortzeit Hilula we're about to commemorate? The answer is, you haven't been listening. This is what hiskashrus means. So if we talk about a hachana, a preparation for Gimel Tammuz, there's no greater preparation than drilling into our heads David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. And I'm not talking about groups and movements and flags and all that stuff. I'm not addressing that. I'm addressing the connection of a chassid to a Rebbe in any way you know how to. In the best way you know how to. But certainly you have to live with it. Because if you don't live with it, your disciples are certainly not going to live with it. And their disciples are certainly not going to live with it. So when we talk about a hachana for Gimel Tammuz, this is the hachana for Gimel Tammuz. I want to share a few stories with you. Because as someone who has spent, Baruch Hashem, many, many years on Shlichus. I spend a lot of time thinking about the Rebbe's wonderful vision of Shlichus. And I must remind you, or you may not know, that when I was a little child, my father, of blessed memory, would take me to every Fabrengen. We lived in Newark, New Jersey, and Crown Heights was a car ride away. Is it vodka? It's water? You know that I drink water at a Fabrengen. Hi. So, again, you may or may not be familiar, but in the early years, in the 1950s, the Fabrengens, often the large ones, took place in rented halls around Crown Heights. Because 770 was tiny, they used to use the outside area for a while, and the 770 that we know today was nowhere around. So I remember going with my father of blessed memory to the Fabrengen as a little kid. We were on Shlichus in Newark, New Jersey. What would I do? I was 6 years old, 7 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old. Usually the Fabrengens were Yutas Kislev, Yud Shvat, Purim, cold winter, not the warm winters like you have in Montreal. Cold New York winters. I used to find a pile of coats, climb up on the pile of coats and fall asleep. And then my father had to find me and take me home, and that was my experience. But sometimes I even listened, and sometimes I took it in. But it made a very powerful impression upon my psyche. And then on the way home, it was my job, given to me by my mother of blessed memory. I had to keep my father awake. He shouldn't fall asleep, chas v'sholom driving. So we used to discuss what happened at the Fabrengen. There was one particular discussion we had where my father shared with me that the Rebbe really began to articulate his dream and vision of sending shluchim all over the world. Now, all over the world didn't mean very much. Not like Moshe Kotlarski's roll call. I'm talking about countries he can't pronounce. Sorry, no entertainment. My father explained to me that the Rebbe has a vision. Just like we're in Newark, the Rebbe wants to send shluchim Yomov, Okedmov, Etzavainav, Onegba. And my father says, did you hear the song they sang? They sang Uparatsta, except that this was before there was the Uparatsta song. So they sang Uparatsta to the tune of Dayenu. Uparatsta, Uparatsta, Yomava Kedma Tzavainav Onegba. And I was intrigued by this vision of Shlichus. In 1961, I was 12 years old. The Rebbe spoke about JFK again, not the airport. About his vision of Peace Corps. The beautiful Sikha. If you're not familiar with it, you should see it, hear it, learn it. And the Rebbe says that we have to learn from everything that we see or hear. The President of the United States announced a Peace Corps. He's going to send people to third world countries to reach out and help the poor people
and they're not going to get high salaries, and they're not going to live in comfortable villas. They're going to struggle and live like the regular people. The Rebbe said, this is my vision of shlichus. And then, at 14 years old, I came to Montreal. And my chaverim and I, we were talking about shlichus. My wife and I got married the first night of Hanukkah, Tovshin Lamed Beis, December 71. I'm from the olden days. We went into Yechidus before the Chasana, because that's what people did. It was like, of course we're going to go into Yechidus before the Chasana. Am I going too long? Where's Rabbi Kramer? Fell asleep. Am I okay here? You know, I have doctors who prescribe my speeches for insomnia. You know, there was a man called me up and he said, Rabbi, it was Sunday morning, he says, because of your speech yesterday, I couldn't sleep all night. I said, wow. I'm so impressed. He says, not exactly, he says. I had a good nap during your speech. When I sleep in the day, I have trouble sleeping at night. So anyway, we went into Yechidus. And we asked for brachas, and we received brachas, and it was a wonderful Yechidus. A lot of interesting things happened. Now we're getting married, if you remember, because you're going to be tested, on the first night of Hanukkah. Very good. Everybody gets an extra dessert. And the Rebbe said, I don't remember the exact lashon, but more or less, the Rebbe said, "Mizol bevar zayin ba'arov os mazoton b'kesher zu neiros Hanukkah." You should find out and ask a Rav what to do about lighting Hanukkah candles. Okay? I'm just a simple guy from New Jersey. So we finish the Yechidus. I go to Rav Zalman Shimon Dworkin, Zechreinu Livrocha, Rabbi Zalman Shimon Dworkin, who was the Rav in Crown Heights, and I told him the story. I said, I'm coming to you. The Rebbe sent us to go to a Rav. What to do about lighting Hanukkah candles. So he says, I don't understand. He says, you should light at home where you are before the Chasana. And the Kala should light at home where she is with her parents. Her parents should light for her, whatever it is. And I don't understand. I said, you don't understand, you're the rabbi. He says, "Efshir will the Rebbe am soll zünden beim Chasana mishum pirsum nisa." Maybe the Rebbe wants that we should light Hanukkah candles. There are a lot of people from my father's community, my parents' community, who were, as my father of blessed memory used to say, nicht fanatisch. Some of them were secular and so on. Imagine. In our Chasana Yechidus, what is the Rebbe telling us? Light Hanukkah candles at your wedding. The Rav was trying to figure it out. Mishum Pirsum Nisa. Because at your wedding you also have to be concerned to bring the message of light to the world. Hey, it's my wedding. Let me enjoy my wedding. No. There is no enjoy anything. Now you've heard of Shnas Hashiva. That's when the Rebbe turned 70 years old. It was the massive Fabrengen. And you all know that the Rebbe asked for a birthday present, that he wants 71 new institutions. This was Yud Aleph Nisan, Tafshin Lamed Beis, 1972. I don't want to get into details, but it was not until Nisan, Adar, Nisan, Lamed Gimel, that the opportunity arose for us to become the Rebbe Shluchim in the Valley, California. We were of the last of the Ayin Aleph Meisdes. Yud Nisan, a day before the cutoff, we received our answer from the Rebbe. It also happens to be the day our oldest son was born. It's a very exciting day for us. And I'll never forget what the Rebbe said. I wrote, in the name of my wife as well, a very exciting letter asking for the Rebbe's Haskam B'Bracha and whatever else that he should make us his shluchim. I don't remember the lashon. But the Rebbe responded in writing. I received this Yud Nisan in the morning. And the first thing the Rebbe said to me is Be'im Meshayer Shemesugol Lozeh. If he, meaning me, if I think that I'm cut out for this. And then the Rebbe added, I have this answer on my desk, V'ha'ikir sheyach laved b'meretz u'b'bitochen chazak asker al atziyah. The main thing is that I should decide firmly to work with meretz, alacrity, and with tremendous trust in Hashem. But the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out if I'm cut out for this. And this was an answer that a person can live an entire lifetime with these few words. First of all, you need to believe that you can do what you're doing. Because if you don't believe you can do what you're doing, you're not going to succeed. Second of all, you need to work very hard, with alacrity. And third of all, you need to have tremendous trust in the Eibusher. There's a wonderful story that I like to tell of a man who came to see his rabbi. And he said, Rabbi, my dad passed away. He was making a wonderful living in the store, but since he died, the store is going to pot. It's not happening. Rabbi, give us guidance, blessing, inspiration. So the rabbi opened up his drawer. He opened up his top drawer, and he took out a mezuzah. And he says, this is a very special mezuzah. I want you to put it on the front door of your store. And every hour on the hour, I want you to kiss the mezuzah. The man says, you're serious, right? Put this mezuzah, very special mezuzah, on the front door of my store. And every hour on the hour, I should kiss the mezuzah? He says, yep. And come back in 3 months and let me know how it's going. Man comes back 3 months later. He says, Rabbi, it's a miracle. What a mezuzah. Wow. I put the mezuzah up, and every hour on the hour I kiss the mezuzah, and business is booming. I can't explain it. And the rabbi says, do it for another 3 months and come see me in 3 months. The guy walks out, so the Rebbetzin says to the rabbi, my dear husband, you know, my father was a rabbi. You, my husband, are a rabbi. We've been together for many years. I never heard anything so crazy What kind of mishigas is this special mezuzahs? You put it on the door and you kiss. What is this craziness? You can't fool me, I'm the Rebbe. He says, you don't get it. This guy's father, let me just see if it's Obama. Somebody's texting me from here, giving me messages. I'm fired. Why don't you give the speech? Okay, someone is writing my speech here. Let's just say Omen. He was working very hard, and he was in the store, and he made a good living. He died, and the son was at the beach surfing all day. So the store started going down in business. That's why I gave him the mezuzah. Because if you kiss the mezuzah every hour, at least you're in the store. Getting more messages here. Somebody want to tell me something? Because this is a lot of very complicated stuff. Want me to go home? So, when the Rebbe says, the merits, in our lives we need to work with merits. But merits is not enough because we have to have tremendous bitochen. And if we have tremendous bitochen, then as Chassidim and as Shluchim and every Jew, as mentioned earlier, is a shliach. Every Chassid is a shliach and every Jew is a shliach. We will succeed. And if there's one message that the Rebbe shared with us for many, many, many years and continues to share with us now, it is that whatever we do, we will succeed at. If we believe that we can do it. As Kolev said. When all the naysayers say you can't do it, the Rebbe says you can do it. Because if you believe in yourself, the Eibishter certainly believes in you. And that applies to anything you're doing. As long as it's appropriate. Certainly if it's mitzvah and Torah and mitzvahs and outreach and emunah and ava and yira and everything else that comes with Chassidus, especially in our time, which includes not only the 10 mitzvahs, but Mivtza Avos Yisrael and Mivtza Mashiach. My father, Zechrenu Levrocha, when he was asked why he speaks to so many people about tefillin, he says, I can't help it. I'm a tefillin addict. Why do you keep speaking about Mashiach? I can't help it. I'm a Mashiach addict. The Rebbe wants Chassidim to be tefillin addicts and Mashiach addicts and all the mavzoyim in between. But I said earlier that I wanted to share a few stories. And after I share these stories, we'll pause and we'll sing some Negunim, and we'll see where we go from there. So I believe that one of the visions of the Rebbe in establishing his concept, his vision of Shlichus, and there are many, and we can speak all night about what the Rebbe intended with Shlichus, and there's 100 reasons, and that's not enough, that's a beginning. But one of the reasons we see clearly is that Rebbe wanted there to be a representation of Chabad everywhere and anywhere in the world. He wanted to make the world a very small place. That's clearly a hachana to Mashiach, which is the idea of one. So I want to tell you 3 stories that I experienced personally. Story number 1. Every Yom Kippur at Nila, for many, many, many years, and you have to understand that a lot of people come to Shul Nila that don't walk into a shul all year round. More than Kol Nidre. I speak about Mivtzoyim. I speak about the idea that the Rebbe created a starter kit for Yiddishkeit. And I go through the 10 Mivtzoyim. And I've had, over the years, amazing, tremendous payers from this. One year, I'm speaking about the Mivtzoyim, and I go through, amongst other Mivtzoyim, because I go through all of them, the idea of Mivtza Kashrus, to keep kosher not only at home, but also outside the home. A few months later, one of the Mispalalim in our shul, who happens to be a makeup artist in the movie industry. He and his wife do makeup. He says to me, Rabbi Gordon, I must tell you a story. He says, you spoke on Yom Kippur about the idea of kashrut. We basically keep kashrut at home. But when it comes to on the road, it's not easy because of what we do. We travel to all kinds of strange places. We try, but not always is it possible. We went to a makeup conference, one of the biggest. This was in Italy, around Bologna, Italy. We're staying in this bed and breakfast, and in the morning, my wife and I, who are both involved in the convention and the conference, we have some bread. How non-kosher could bread be? We have some margarine, we have some coffee, and then we figured we'll wing it for the rest of the day with Diet Cokes. I'm not sure if you know, but Diet Coke has all kinds of chemicals in it that can really keep you going. That was a joke. So, we're going through the day, and we're sipping Diet Cokes, and all of a sudden, I get so hungry. And I pass by a hot dog stand. I love hot dogs. There's only one thing I love more than hot dogs, and that's hamburgers. And I say to my wife, what's going to be already? We can't make it through the day with Diet Coke alone. She says, well, we promised. The rabbi said we have to keep kashrut even on the road. Yeah, but one hamburger. God won't mind. And that was the conversation. Now this fellow speaks a perfect Hebrew. He speaks a broken English. He also speaks Italian, French. He's a linguist. Like the fellow said, I speak 14 languages, English the best. Suddenly he says, I see this rabbi. Now I figured the rabbi needs my help because I saw a rabbi a few days earlier and the Italians were picking on him, anti-Semitism. So I walk over and I say to this rabbi, Ani yachol lazor lecha? Can I help you? So the rabbi says, Ani bati lazor lecha. He says, Ech ata yachol lazor li? For those of you who don't speak Mamalushan, can I help you? I came to help you. How can you help me? He says to the rabbi. He says, Me'epata. He says, I'm from Encino, California. He says, Encino, California? The rabbi says to me, do you know my friend, Josh Gordon? He says, who are you? He says, never mind who I am. I'm sure you're hungry. He says, let's go to the side. I have a suitcase full of sandwiches. I come here to the convention to bring sandwiches to hungry Jewish businessmen. This is Eli David Bornstein, my colleague and classmate from 50 years ago. So they go off to the side and he says, I have hot dogs, I have hamburgers. You have hamburgers! It's a miracle! He comes back and he tells me, he says, now I know the Rebbe is alive. He sent me a hamburger to Bologna, Italy. That's one story. Now I'll tell you a second story. I get a call from a woman in the community. She's distraught. Can I come see you? I said, sure. So she comes with a few daughters of hers, and she says, I understand you know how to get bracha from the Rebbe. She is obviously a foreigner. We have a lot of foreigners in our community. In fact, I'm the only real Californian. I'm just kidding, I'm from Dobshitz. So I said, what's the story? She said, Rabbi, I need a bracha from the Rebbe. We are originally French, and my daughter went to Lyon, France, and we lost touch with her. She disappeared. And I called the State Department, and I reached out, and I called here, and I called there, and I filled out reports, and they're looking, but nothing is happening. I need a bracha from the Rebbe. I said, no problem, we'll write it down. I wrote it down, I think I faxed it in, gave me all the names and everything. I said, by the way, while we're talking, tell me a little bit about your daughter. What is her name? What does she look like? How old is she? Why do you need to know? Well, I have a friend in Lyon. Because one of the years I did not learn in Mont-Real, I learned in Brunois. And I made a lot of friends in Brunois. It was 1967. And one of the friends that I acquired was my friend Mule Gurevich. Rabbi Shmuel Gurewitz, who is the head of Chabad in Lyon. I said, let me call my friend, let me see if he knows something. She says, I called the State Department. I said, it's okay, we have our own State Department. Anyway, she went home, I got on the phone, I said, Mule, how you doing? Hey! And we talked about how Rav Nissen caught me drinking Coke, and he thought it was Goyer Shevine, and we reminisced about the old times. And I said, listen, this girl, ask around, can you find her for me? An hour later, he calls me back, we found her. She's alive and well. I called her mother, I said, your daughter is alive and well, this is where she is. She said the State Department couldn't do it. I said, but Chabad could do it. That's story number 2. Story number 3. There's a gentleman in my community. One of his sons was what he thought was a rock star. So got up it. You look at this guy, he looks like a rock star. And this rock star had a band. And he and his band were in Brussels, Belgium. One day this guy, my mispalo, calls me, he says, I have an emergency. My son was in Brussels. He was staying in the Holiday Inn. On the way to the airport, he had all of his luggage. He put down his fanny pack, his purse. It had money, passports, tickets, everything. And he was dealing with the desk at the Holiday Inn. He turns around, It's all gone. The luggage, the passport, everything. And he's left without anything. Can you help? I said, give me the information. Where's the Holiday Inn? I said, tell him to stay there. Does he have a cell phone? Yes. I got on the phone. I talked to him. I said, where are you? He says, you want to hear something? I actually met a religious Jew. And he looked at me and he says, are you a star? I said, well, you know, I do rock and roll. He says, are you famous? He says, not yet. The guy walked away from me. So I said, listen, I have a friend of mine. He's going to be at your hotel in 45 minutes. He's going to bring you money. He's going to help you get a passport. He's going to help you get a ticket. But there's a fee. What's the fee? I said, you need to put on film with him. He says, I'll put on film. And to cut to the chase, a very dear friend of mine who was on Shlichus at that time in Brussels, went there, took care of things, laid out a bunch of money, came back, he repaid the money. So I'm telling you stories. Bologna, Italy, Lyon, France, Brussels, Belgium. Wherever you go, Yomov, Akedmov, it's Avainov, and Egmov. The Rebbe is there. So the Eibishter helping that we should take merit Ad Mosai enough, and we should see, before Gimel Tammuz, the Giyula, Amitas, Vashlema, Zenzer mit der Rebbe, jetzt, Begrub Gashmi, Omek.
Well,